Hello, stranger. Lenny here. I got a filler picture while I talk about a few things before we get started. There's a lot of stuff you're not going to see in this video. You're not going to see me clean it. You're not going to see me lubricate it. And you're not going to see me break stuff and order new parts, which I had to do, which is why it took so long. For instance, I had to order a new mainspring. So the mainspring you're looking at right here is the correct mainspring for this model of watch. Unfortunately, because the knurling on the winding stem is completely gone, you can't get a good grip on it. You can only get about 5 hours worth of winding into this mainspring. So I did replace the mainspring with a weaker spring, so same dimensions except it's thinner, which means it's a weaker spring. They're measured by strength, which is just like saying thickness. This is also the wrong way to install a mainspring. It's a pain in the ass. You see I lost one of my little finger condoms, but I put the center arbor in, and it was honestly, it wasn't that bad. And as long as you get it in there in the right spot and make sure that the hook catches, which is what I did there, you know, once you line up all the pins on the mainspring, you can pop that case together and you're good to go. So the next thing I did, which was a concern, that little spring I put in there, that lets that little gear engage this gear, which engages this gear, which engages the mainspring so you can wind it. So in the normal winding position, those three gears are engaged and they wind the mainspring. When it's in the set position, it engages that little brass gear right there. The issue was that little bitty spring, the first thing you saw me install in the front of the watch, it had actually broken. So it's supposed to come up and meet the set lever mechanism train. And I realized that it had broken because it wasn't popping up, and I realized it just there. So I did replace that, and I went ahead and did the rest of the assembly while I was waiting for that part. Finished the front of the watch, sorry you didn't see it. But here I am making sure that the winding stem part, little brass cylinder, is secured, and it is, works just fine. The next thing I did is I put the little spring in that helps the set lever mechanism come back to where it needs to go. Now the next step was to put the mainspring barrel in, and I wound it by hand just to make sure that it met up with that train of gears, because it's got a square arbor on it. It's got to line up. Then I realized I had to take it back out to put the center wheel in, so that was fun. Now you're not going to see me try over again to get these wheels in the right order of installation, because I always forget what order they go in. But if you know how a watch works, it's honestly, you'll figure it out. So I moved it to my case holder, so the second hand and the center wheel weren't protruding onto the cushion, and I went to install my pallet fork, which I clumsily dropped. Oh yeah, like that slow-mo for you. Anyway, it's kind of a weird setup on these old pocket watches, especially like this, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. What I do is I put the pallet fork on the back plate and I kind of sandwich them together like that. Usually takes a few tries. This was probably like my 8th or 9th try here. Some people put the pallet fork on the base plate and then they kind of slide the back plate into it. I could never figure that out. But once you get in there, you just start poking around very gently at the pivots on the gears to make sure they're all lined up with the back plate before you tighten it down. And I've gotten pretty good at this. It still takes a few tries, but make sure they're lined up before you tighten these screws down, or you'll break a pivot and you'll just be waiting on more parts. So that's the back plate on there. Next is the barrel bridge, and I did lubricate as I went. I just didn't let you guys see it because I use cheap lubricants and don't have the right tools. But anyway, so complete the front of the watch, put the canyon pinion back on, put the arrow wheel on after that, and next step, I mean, it's pretty much almost done at this point. Put the face back on like that, make sure everything's lined up, and the little bitty face screws, they go into the dial feet, kind of clamp into them. There's 3 screws. I only have 2 because one's broken off in there. No big deal, still works fine. And here I'm putting the balance and all that in just to make sure it works. I'm going to take it back out again, but you got to make sure that the balance shaft is lined up with those pivots, because if you go to tighten that balance cock down and they're not lined up, those are very fragile pivots and you're going to break them. And I don't have the tools to fix that. Like, I'll have to send it to an actual professional to fix that issue. But once you know you got it in the right spot, you tighten it down, and give it a few shakes and make sure it works. And it works. I'm super excited. So now I'm going to throw the movement in the case, push all that shit out of the way. So what you do is you pull the stem out on these watches and you very gently, see I took the balance out so I wouldn't mess it up, but you pull that stem out and you very gently fit it in there, and then you put in your case screws, or case screw in my case, because I only have one. Then you put the hands on the wrong way because you don't have the right tools, but hey, if you're careful, you can do it with your hands. As long as you're wearing gloves, or you got it covered with plastic or something, make sure everything's lined up. And put the small second on there, and make sure you give everything a good little puff. Make sure it's all clean. I mean, it's all scratched up, so you can't really tell if there's dust in there anyway, but yeah. So just about done putting the balance back in for the last time. Make sure it works, give it a few winds, and there it goes. So this is a completed watch right here. Everything's done. I replaced the mainspring. I replaced that little spring for the set lever mechanism. And so this is the winding position. And that's how you wind the watch. Obviously, but to set the time on these, it's kind of funny. You pull the bezel face off, the bezel ring, crystal bezel, whatever. You pull that lever out, and it pivots that plate that we talked about earlier into the gear train to set the time. And it's pretty simple. And then you pop it back in once you got it at the right time, screw that back on, and you're good to go. So this watch keeps pretty good time now. I'm pretty proud of myself. This is the first time I did a complete service on a watch from start to finish. I took it apart, diagnosed the issues, cleaned it, replaced it, and it all works. So anyway, thanks for watching. It was a lot of fun. I got some more videos coming soon, but make sure you wear what you like.